Thank you very much, Honourable Khai. This debating cycle has seen one phrase repeated regularly. The phrase is, South Africa is the most unequal society in the world. So I pointed out to this House last week that the ANC's failed model of broad-based black economic empowerment has in fact worsened the inequality in South Africa, and that this is borne out by the Gini coefficient measurement of the World Bank. But today I'd like to point out that the ANC's funding of education has a similar impact on inequality, favouring the less than 7% of the population who will get tertiary education. Now, Honourable Christians alluded to this in her contribution today, and I'd like to explore it a little bit more deeply. Honourable members, if you choose to rubber stamp this Cabinet's budget on this vote, you will be allocating an amount to higher education that is 3 times what we are allocating to basic education. Think about that. More concerning is the planned remodeling of the education funding environment that plays out in the medium-term expenditure framework. And it shows that program 3 of this vote, which deals with the university education specifically, is increasing by a rate double that of any basic education program. This program already gets over 68% of this department's expenditure, and now it's being increased at a rapid rate to benefit the very few who make it to university. Make no mistake, I think that future leaders should be empowered, no matter what their financial circumstances are. But the disastrous failure of NSFAS gives me no confidence that this money will be an investment into our future economy as it should be. The underfunding of schools means that too many of our children are receiving a poor basic education, and now this government intervenes at the end of the education cycle by funding university education. That's like planting a millie, starving it of water until just before it crowns, and then overwatering it. The result will be a stunted plant that gives you a very sparse harvest. You don't have to be the sharpest knife in the drawer, Minister, to know that the results will not be what you hoped for. Minister, you stood before us today asking for support for the vote, and yet you are famous for not standing and listening to students and listening to what their real needs are. But what have you done to fix NSFAS? We cannot be asked to be throwing water into a leaky bucket. Now, not only is the whole of the NSFAS system broken, but we don't know what its true value is. Now, I normally try to disagree with Honourable De Bruin, if only on general principle, but today he raised the important issue of the need for the NSFAS grants to give a return to South Africa. Minister, can you tell us how many students have been funded by NSFAS, how many of them have received degrees, and how many of those are now adding value into our economy? Probably not. And then perhaps one day Mr. Khadebe will explain to us how it is that he can come up here and explain all the reasons why a budget vote is absolutely misguided, and then at the end of the speech state that the IFP supports the budget. I look forward to the reopening of Barney's and we can talk about that. But Honourable Christian spoke about the student accommodation challenges. Now, this has pushed students into inadequate accommodation. Then Honourable Barra spoke about the culture at universities, not a culture of learning, but of rape, tribalism, violence, and unacceptable behaviour. Just take the suburb of Bedworth Park, which has become a terrible place to live as students are crammed into student housing and they run amok. Minister, the opportunity to learn should be cherished, but it seems that much of the funding that you're giving out is not hitting the right targets. Honourable Ndongeni, I'm not sure who wrote your speech for you today, but they need to come and spend some time in Sebokeng and see the wonderful, intelligent, energized, and smart young people there who have no opportunity to get into university because of the poor education foundation that they have had, as said to continues the work of Favut, keeping education at its lowest level and making a matric certificate a rare commodity. As I conclude, Chairperson, Cabinet doesn't have to call it zero-based budgeting if it doesn't tie in with their ideological obsessions. But they do need to seriously look at the logic and desirability of focusing all of this funding in a space where it continues to entrench poverty and inequality. These programs in this budget vote need urgent reassessment rather than incrementalism. Please spend money on education, but do it in the right place. I thank you.
Thank you very much.